Welcome back to the Creative Boom podcast. I'm your host, Katie Cowan, and this week I'm sharing a chat I had with someone back in early March before lockdown began. Craig Oldham is a British designer who runs his own studio in Manchester. Originally from Yorkshire, his no-nonsense approach to life and work becomes obvious the minute you click on his website. The homepage is a soundboard of his favourite movie quotes. I urge you to check it out. My personal favourites are Profitable and Legend. Craig has worked for many leading brands, Manchester City Football Club, the V&A, Creative Review, and he was behind the rebrand of the Brit Awards with Vivienne Westwood in 2011. He's also worked with the likes of the BBC and Rough Trade. He's won a ton of awards, been featured everywhere, and written for leading publications. He's also published his own books, such as In Loving Memory of Work, a visual record of the UK miners' strike 1984 to 85, which is held at the permanent collections of the British Library, the V&A and the House of Commons. Then later, recognising the gap between graduation and work, he wrote a book for emerging designers in 2018 called Oh Shit, What Now? Most recently, he's published They Live, a book that celebrates the cult sci-fi conspiracy movie by John Carpenter. I certainly had plenty to ask him. I was especially excited about geeking out on movies and conspiracy theories. I hope this conversation, recorded pre-lockdown, lifts your spirits this Monday morning. I'm here with my next guest, the lovely designer, Craig Oldham. Thank you very much for coming and meeting me here.
My absolute pleasure. Hello.
Yeah. I've obviously interviewed you before and been following your work. And actually, the last time we chatted, you'd just released this book called Oh Shit, What Now?
Yes, indeed, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was a while ago now,
That is
wasn't it?
a while ago. What's been happening since then?
Oh, the party never stops. Yeah, I don't know. You've got a rich and varied diet of a work life, really.
Yeah.
So do a bit of everything. Bit of teaching, bit of design work, bit of writing, bit of publishing, bit of this, bit of that, you know.
You seem to like to look after the next generation of creatives that are coming up underneath us, because that was obviously, a thing from your book.
Yeah, I mean, that book was all about that, yeah. I see it as a responsibility, personally.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think, they are the next generation, they are the future of the industry. And I think if we all hold on to those experiences that we had when we come through it, and we share those, and we share the sort of things we learned, and we share the sort of mistakes we made and are honest about that, then I think we can make a better industry that can be more fit for purpose rather than just selling things for money all the time.
Yeah,
and I think that's really important. Absolutely.
And you mentioned honesty. It's not something that's very prevalent in this industry sometimes. So
yeah, it can be. I mean, I don't know why though. That's the thing, because I think people individually are prepared to be honest. And you have you meet up with people. You'll know this doing this amazing podcast. You meet with people, you have a chat, and I don't know if you get it, but sometimes they're sort of really honest, and then they might change when this mic comes on, or I don't know. I've seen it happen to a lot of people where they go on stage and suddenly it's like a different person that's on stage, and you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, they weren't talking about that 2 seconds ago when we were down there having a cup of coffee or in that pub having a beer. So why do you feel the need to sort of put this veneer in front of you?
This persona.
Yeah, and I've never bought that. I mean, I've never wanted. I mean, I'm not good enough to do it. So it's like it's just one of those things. And I've always held on to that kind of. I've always been really sensitive to that time when I graduated, because I remember it being a pretty tumultuous time for me personally. People forget that if you're someone like me who comes from a bare arse town in Yorkshire in the middle of nowhere, trapped in between two sort of metropolitan cities, and then I'm absconded away from my parents. Probably, I'm not really been out of Barnsley. As I was growing up, we'd been on trips and whatever, but I'd never been away to live and never had that kind of exposure to a cosmopolitan kind of big city. And suddenly I was cast down to Cornwall to sort of meet all these new people who were from these kinds of places. And I felt like such a weirdo and such an alien that I didn't have any kind of grounding in what they were interested in and what they were doing. And that was really hard. And it took me a year to sort of settle in. And then just as you're settling in and finding yourself as an adult and with autonomy and independence, you're cast out again, and it's really hard. And it's not just you're moving around, but you've got a degree and suddenly you want to have a job, and you put into all that kind of stress, and it takes its toll. And I think people forget that. I think the more we can do to sort of explain that little gap that happens between maybe graduating or maybe finding out you want to do this career. So you don't have to just start in education, of course, but just making that decision, right, I want to be a designer or work in the creative industries, and then being in the creative industries. I think if we can just tell more honestly about that kind of journey and the anxieties that come with it and the stress and the mistakes that you make, I think it'll be a lot easier and a lot better. And I think that's going to open up the diversity in the industry, because I think there's a lot of people shutting that gate behind them when they get in. Whether they're aware of it or not, I don't know, but I just found that really frustrating, because I could never get answers to what I really wanted to know. I'd see all these people come to our sort of university every Friday. We had this programme, visiting lecturers would come, and you'd get them all the big names who were really lucky. And I had two overwhelming feelings. You'd just be like, fucking hell, I'm never going to be that good. That work's amazing, because all they'd ever do is here's a project, isn't it great? Oh, here's another project, isn't it great? And you just think, yeah, I'm never going to be that good. And then you just go away so insecure, thinking, oh, fuck, I'm going to work at Tesco all my life. Or,
oh, for God's sake. Yeah, I think
you're just like, how do I do that?
How do you get there?
There was no bridge. No one told me where it was. And then you get in there and you turn around and you think, that's nothing. It's so accessible and it's so friendly and so warm and sort of generous as an industry. But there is a disconnect, and that really always frustrated me as when I was a young designer. And still now, it really frustrates me, because I see people still having to go through that.
Yeah. Do you ever go to talks? Do you give talks yourself and go to these big events? And do you see sometimes some younger people sort of hopping from one foot to the other, trying to pluck up the courage to maybe come up and speak to you or other people that are there?
I try not to engage in any of that kind of stuff, really. I want people to just feel like they can just ask me anything. And when I do talks, I think that's one of the things I always try and convey to people, is that I don't think there's anything off limits, and I'm prepared to answer questions about anything, no matter how mundane or how seemingly scared somebody might be to ask it. They should ask, because why not? If I have some information or if they think I've got some information that'd help them, why shouldn't they feel that they can tap that from me, because I'm there on stage to sort of do that, and that's my role. Like I say, I see that as my responsibility as someone who's been lucky enough to have a colourful career in the creative industries, that maybe I can help someone find their own way through it.
Yeah, but you're not just a designer, you're a human being, and they're not just a student or a graduate, they're a human being. You're
bang on. People forget that, though.
It's such a simple concept.
But it boils my piss. It's so stupid.
I have never heard that expression before in my life.
Oh, it's probably going to be the first of many. I'm sorry, but
I like it.
I don't understand why people are like that. I always remember, I think it was Michael Wolff, his words ringing in my ears of sort of saying, or they're ringing in my ears now. If you answer a question like a designer, or if you say something as a designer or within whatever your role is, then you will receive an answer from whatever that person's role is. And I've always seen that as a real wall. It's a real barrier between, I think he said it in the context of sort of engaging with clients and whatever else, but I see that as designer to designer. Just talk to people about you as a person and how you navigate that, because we're all doing it because we apparently, we have passions and we have beliefs, and we sort of see creativity as something bigger than just drawing pictures and things like that. It's a gesture that we feel we can put out into the world. So why can't we just share and make it all a bit better?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with talking about feelings and things we're going through. And, you might sort of turn around in your talk and say, oh, I had a bit of anxiety about this. And some young person in that audience, or even just somebody who's changed careers, who's further down the line in their life and work, they might think, gosh, that's very reassuring. I'm normal then. And it's that, isn't it? It's just a case of checking in with yourself and going, oh, that person I admire, he's also the same as me. That is really reassuring. I can go on and skip off into the sunset and feel much better about myself. It's just the simplest of things.
It is. It really is. But I'm sadly, I'm constantly shocked at the amount of times where students that I speak to, or graduates, or just young people, don't feel that. They don't get that from these luminaries that they see. Not all of them, of course, but it's sad to see that is still the kind of prevalent idea, that these people have just made it because they're amazing. And actually, that's not the case. They've worked really hard, probably, most of them.
Yeah.
And they've seized opportunities when they've come their way, and they've grafted, and they've been prepared to ask those questions, and they've come from, a lot of them, pretty humble backgrounds like everyone else has.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, I try, if I can do any little thing, then it's that, to try and get rid of that idea that there's some sort of birthmark behind anybody's ear that says, oh, you were born to do this, some crescent moon and some ceremony. It's like, it's fucking bollocks, that. And I hate anything I can do to dispel that.
Yeah.
The better, I think.
Yeah.
I think we all should do it, though. It's not my crusade. It's just, I think everybody should do that.
Yeah, I feel like there is this rising tide of fight back against that. People want to see the honesty. They want to see the kind of, the highs and the lows. Yeah. Not just the highs, I mean.
But we mentioned it, I just mentioned it before we started about what you were doing, and the way that you share your learnings from doing this and this new venture, and how it sits with Creative Boom, and you're really open and transparent about that. And that's really important. People can learn from that, and they can take from that, and that's a real gift for people, because it gives them, maybe, like you said, they can relate to it maybe, or they can see themselves in it in some way, or they can take the little bits that they like and discard the rest, and that's fine. And that's the best thing about it, is that's a creative gesture as well. Being
kind of, it's realising the world's bigger than just you. Somebody actually said to me whilst I was tweeting something recently, they're like, what, you're telling everybody what equipment you're using in your podcasting and who you're using and how you're doing it? I said, yeah, why? And they were like, well, aren't you worried about, giving your secrets away? I said, what do you mean?
Anybody? No, it's not a fucking exam, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, sorry, friend, I won't mention who it was, but I think, fair to them, they kind of make that point because they probably are just thinking, they're probably just caring about me and making sure I'm doing all right. But the thing is, I've never seen this podcast as something that's like anything other than a great way to continue to give back through the spirit of Creative Boom. And, when I was thinking about doing it, should I host it or should I get somebody else to host it? And I thought, well, actually, why was Creative Boom a good thing in the first place? It was because it had that human angle. It was essentially me, and it still is me running the thing. So what I wanted to do was give it a voice again, because it's been going for 10 years and it's turned into this much bigger thing. It's more than me now. But it's nice to be able to give some of me back, because, like you say, it opens doors. It almost builds that bridge. It makes you... Funny enough, you mentioned before, when you put a microphone in front of some designers or illustrators or whatever, it does the opposite of putting the persona up. It makes everybody just open up, which is a very powerful, wonderful thing. It's doing the same to me. So if anyone's listening to this and they're finding it really helpful, I mean, somebody said on Twitter the other day, they listened to something and it made them cry because they realised that they were normal and going through very similar things to what you and I might go through. I mean, that's only got to be a great thing. But yeah, sharing the podcasting equipment and telling people how you do stuff, that's what we should all be doing.
Definitely. I mean, I think all creativity is an exchange, whether it's a communication that you're putting out into the world to talk to an audience, there's still an exchange that happens. It might be in exchange for this gorilla playing the drums and you having a laugh about it, you can go and buy a chocolate bar. That's an exchange, but there's also, like you said, the human element to it. And that's an exchange of ideas, or it's an exchange of experiences and feelings, and those still have value, and they still go into that big mixer.
Yeah.
Then from which you draw all of your ideas and all your kind of, where you make all of those little connections that turn into something creative, and by being open, people might think, oh yeah, you're vulnerable, but that also brings in help. It's not just letting the venom in. It could be that the podcasting equipment, somebody could say, oh, you should try this. And it might improve everything. It might change things.
Yeah.
Or it might just make you think of it in a different way. But you're only going to get that by being open and by being vulnerable with people. And I think that's really important. Yeah,
definitely. I think we all have, in us to put that barrier up, haven't we? We've all got it in us, because we're always thinking, It's easy to fall into the trap, and we'll come on to this with one of your favourite movies, but it's easy to fall into this trap with these messages that are bombarding us all the time, especially in the creative community where, you have to be deemed a certain way and they might not be coming from anywhere. We might just be telling ourselves that, I can't show myself to be vulnerable, otherwise that might damage my reputation and therefore I might not get clients, something as simple as that. But actually it doesn't, it does the opposite, doesn't it?
I think there are these archetypes and stereotypes that exist about what a designer should be and what a designer should like and what you should be, all these kinds of characteristics that are sort of pushed on you from very, very early levels. Even your perception of what you see designers on TV or whatever, this sort of the black shirt brigade, that kind of idea. And I think you've got to sort of step aside from that. You've got to be able to, particularly if you're in the industry and you're working, you've got to be able to open up and not sort of involve yourself in those kinds of discussions, because ultimately that's conforming.
Yeah.
And I find that really, if you tell any kind of creative person that they're conforming, they'll want to, their arms will start flailing around and they'll be like, no, I'm not, I'm an individual and all this kind of stuff. But they don't realise that they are, that if you're not defining your own kind of values of creativity and you're not wearing black T-shirts because you don't like them or whatever, if you're being yourself, then if you're not doing that, then you're ultimately conforming to someone else's idea of what creative is and what a designer should be and what a designer should like. And a lot of that came out in my book when I did Oh Shit, What Now? A lot of the feedback that came through, like in the early manuscripts and things, was, are you sure you want to say that? That's quite revealing. I put my email address in the book, and just to tell people to get in touch. And it's not necessarily hidden away, but I get so many emails from it of people just saying, thanks for that, can I ask this? And that's, like you say, that's where all the really good feedback comes from that book, is when people have read it and they've sort of, engaged with the tone of it or engaged with the message of it or whatever they've took from it, and then they've found that little footnote and emailed me and just said thank you, or they've said this, or they've asked me questions, and I found that so rewarding. But for some reason I didn't think twice about it. I was just like, well, why shouldn't I? It's a bit dangerous. I don't know if it's GDP and all that. Not GDP, but whatever it is, the government policing GDP, Craig, come on. They
Is
were
that
just
pancake
really,
you've just had?
Yeah. I'm weighed down in this seat with all the pancakes.
We're having like a food coma.
But I just didn't think twice about that, and I didn't think twice about anything that I was going to say that was honest in my own experiences, whether that was a stupid anecdote about my failures or my failures indeed, or telling a story about my nan. I didn't care, because they all add up to the experience of what I've got and where I've been. And if I'm then sharing that, then I've got to share all those things as much as the successes.
I love that. And I think, back then, when was it? When did the book come out? Was it 2016, 2017, something like that? Back then, I think there was still a lot of bravado going on in the industry. And now I really do see it changing. I see people opening up, and mainly a lot of it's driven by this louder conversation about mental health, especially men talking. It's brilliant. Talking about their anxieties, saying, they worried that they're not good enough, how they saw a talk recently and they were absolutely inspired because their favourite designer admitted that they, didn't always have it all figured out.
Yeah, that they haven't got this immaculate life.
Exactly. I mean, I got to 40 and I still have these moments where I'm like, oh my God, everyone else is, absolutely killing it. And I'm still struggling and trying to figure things out. And it's silly. You do get into these little kind of, wormholes, I guess, where you forget that actually everyone's like that. Everyone goes through it.
Everybody does. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, for me, it's always been about defining like success and defining things on your own terms, and not sort of feeling that you are an above average person or a below average person based on someone else's yardstick, because I just think that's you're ultimately deemed to fail, because you're never going to achieve your own ambitions. You're just going to try and achieve someone else's.
Yeah.
And I just think that success is really relative like that, and success has got to be what you want it to be, and you have to be your own person. And mental health is so important to that. And if that means that you work a different way to someone else, that's fine, as long as you're okay. and because the work can be done. And I think it is great that people are opening up and that people are talking about these things, but I still think people need to talk more about it. I think we can always talk more.
Yeah, I was petrified about doing this and showing my vulnerable side and the things I've been going through. In fact, it all started with a confidence crash and a midlife crisis, very cliche, about a couple of years ago. And I wrote a tips article on Creative Boom about my experience, and it was very honest. And I just said, it was something along the lines of, what to do when you've crashed and burned and lost your confidence, how to get it back. And I got so many messages, like you say, when you open up and you share this personal story, it's amazing the amount of people that just come out of the woodwork. And it was incredible because a couple of people were really famous designers and they were coming to me and saying, oh man, that really resonated with me. I've been through something similar recently. And mostly actually blokes who are in their sort of early 40s as well. They've kind of had the same thing. They've got to 40 and they're like, oh, shit, I'm 40. And, there are all these young people coming up behind me and what if I'm not good enough? And then all this kind of sort of crash of confidence happens. But the amount of people that got in touch with me and said that was really inspiring. So that, I think, planted the seed in my head to maybe think about doing a podcast and try and not necessarily talk about what's your inspirations and what's your style. Maybe just, get the story from the person, because it's great looking at people's work on Creative Boom and sharing that and championing that. But the real kind of goodness comes from, finding out the person behind the pixels, I guess.
No, absolutely. And I completely applaud you for that. I think that's an amazing thing that you've done.
Thank you.
And, I'm not saying it's as easy as just doing it, because it takes a lot to do that and to put your head up there and do it. And it's brave, and it can really challenge a lot of your insecurities. But as you see, people go through this all the time, and that's why when someone does open up, and everybody can sort of come round in solidarity, and everybody can share experiences, and that's how we learn, and that's how we grow and heal and get better and improve that for people coming behind us, so that they don't have to suffer where we did. Yeah. If that's not the point, then I don't want to engage in it. Yeah. Because what else is there?
You make a great point. That's exactly why I do this. I don't want people to go through what I went through. I want to show them the way. It's like almost like guiding a light, isn't it? And saying, come on, this way. I know it's a bit dark over there. Don't worry about that bit. Follow me. Keep following the light. And it gives you that kind of boost, doesn't it? You can't deny that. Obviously, you're in it to do it for yourself as well.
Yeah, everybody gets something out of it. But there's that exchange again. You know?
Exactly.
But the fact that you're doing something good with it is amazing.
So what about your background then?
Oh, wait, how far back in the background?
Well, what was your childhood like? What did you do as a lad?
Well, I mean, I as I said, I grew up in Barnsley, which was a heavy industry town, coal mines, glassworks.
Were your grandparents, grandfathers, miners?
Yes, all of them. Great granddad, dad even, all miners. And we didn't have much at all. Particularly, I was born in 1985 when the strike was on, and I'm called to this day a strike bairn, or strike baby for those that you don't speak Yorkshire, because I was born in the strike, and that was a pretty hard time, and we had nothing. My mum was struggling with a lot of things. Obviously, my dad was out of work, so the family had no money. My mum was training to be a nurse at the time, and she had two kids, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old in my older brother and sister when she fell pregnant with me.
Gosh.
So it was pretty rough. And then I grew up in the kind of post-strike, post-industrial town. And I guess it's sort of a weird kind of bittersweet thing, but my mum and dad separated when I was 5 years old because of this strike. Because one thing that did come out of those kind of ashes was that it was incredible for the women's movement and women against pit closures and these kinds, and Barnsley miners' wives, and these kinds of movements and sort of collectives came together. My mum was involved in some as much as she could. Obviously, being pregnant, she can't go on a march that much when you're carrying, but she was involved, and that empowered her, and it empowered so many women in like my kind of communities, these patriarchal communities, and that model of bloke does the work, brings the money in, and the wife's role or the mum's role or the female role in that patriarchy was to look after the kids, to clean the house, to, you know, do all of these things, get the shopping in, step, repeat. And suddenly that was smashed because the model wasn't there anymore because there was no work.
Yeah.
And I think that essentially broke up my mum's marriage, because as soon as my dad got some work again, he was, you know, he expected the same model, I think. And my mum was like, fuck off. No way, I'm not doing that. So I ended up being raised by these kind of warrior women in like people like my mum and my nan. And obviously I had some really strong men. Like my granddad was a really important figure. But I got raised up in that kind of world where you fought for what you believed in and you were sort of proud of what you came from. And in a way, it's kind of distorted a lot of the way I think about things, particularly women's movements, particularly kind of diversity, because I just don't see it kind of, I don't think I see it in the similar way to a lot of other men, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because I just grew up around really strong women.
Yeah.
And that was great, and I was really supported. My mum is amazing. She's absolutely amazing. One of the most inspirational people I've ever met and will ever know.
What's her name?
Karina, yeah. What a woman. But she's also a pain in the arse at times, but she's aren't all mums. But yeah, so I sort of grew up in that, really. I mean, my mum, you know, all the kind of landmarks that a boy has, like learning how to shave, going to your first football match, things like that, they were all, like, my mum taught me how to do all those things.
Wow.
So it's kind of, it feels a bit weird, but that, it really did have an impact on me. And I grew up, and again, but my mum became a nurse on intensive care in the Barnsley Hospital.
Oh, that's hard work.
So yeah, so we went through quite a lot. She did lots of long hours, so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents when she was doing whatever. And they effectively raised me as much as my mum did, really. My granddad and my nan, Ron and Muriel.
Oh,
proper granddad
I always love
names.
to know their names. I love to know their names.
Ron and Muriel. But and they were.
Are they still about?
No, we sadly lost them both,
Oh.
which was tough. But
Yeah,
they were amazing as a duo. They were amazing, but also on their own, they were amazing.
What were they like? What was he like?
They were just mad. My granddad was just. I mean, I always tell this story. I guess I always tell it at lectures because it's really important to me. But those two people taught me the most about creativity than any creative director, any designer. Anyone. It's like, so there's two sort of stories. My granddad, he was always fixing stuff. He never had any money, but I think because of his upbringing, you know, post-war, I guess, he was always make, do and mend. So he had this drawer in the kitchen. They're always in the kitchen, and you'd open it and it'd just fucking vomit all this stuff at you. String and keys and screws and just crap, tape, Cook's matches. There's always a box of
Pipe
Cook's
cleaners,
matches
maybe?
in there. Yeah. You know, all this kind of washers, tat, buttons.
Keys that nobody knows where they go.
It's like, what's that? And you'd be trying to find something, and then you'd be screaming at your granddad like, fucking clean this drawer out. You can't find anything. And he'd always be like, oh, you never know, lad, you never know. And then you'd see him fixing something in the house, or he'd be fixing the car, and he was like a ready, steady cook thing, you know. He'd look in the drawer and look away at his problem, and then look in the drawer again, and then he'd just, whatever was in there, he'd find a way to fix the problem that was in front of him. And I used to be amazed by how he knew that something in there could fix something elsewhere that seemed completely alien to me. So I was always amazed by this kind of pure problem solving, this pure kind of raw creativity that he sort of exerted all the time.
Yeah.
And you'd say to him, as I sort of grew up and I understood these terms, and I was taught that, oh, the designer does this and this is creative and all that kind of stuff at uni. And you'd come back home at weekend or whatever, and you'd say to him, oh, that's really creative, that. And he'd just be like, what? Eh? He didn't, he didn't recognise what that was. He'd just call me like, stop being soft or something, you know. He just never understood that creativity was a thing. I don't think he ever really understood what I did for a living. He was just quite happy that I was doing something I liked.
Oh.
But teaching me that actually creativity is something everybody does all the time. They just don't call it that. For me, was like absolutely mind-blowing and eye-opening. And with my nan, I did one of the first projects I ever did from sort of start to finish, as it were, was a book. And I was so proud of this. I was only, I'd only been out of uni like 6 months or something. So I'm almost carrying it around like dead chuffed. Like, ooh, I've done a book. Look at this. I've done this all myself. I didn't do it all myself, obviously, but I was telling everybody I did. and I'd just be like chucking it right. Look, man, look at this. And
I thought we were being honest.
White lies. But look at this, look at this. But this is it. The honesty thing comes in now. So I showed my nan. She was like my victim. Oh, look, nan, look at this. And of course, she's like, oh, love, this is lovely. And she's like, oh, have you wrote this? And I was like, no, nan. So she's flicking through this book. And then she's like, oh, right. She's like, oh, have you took all these pictures then? I was like, no, nan. And she's like, okay. And you could see her getting more confused. And then she's like, you've done these drawings, haven't you? You always used to be good at drawing, Craig. I'd be like, no, nan. So she's sort of getting ever more perplexed as she's slowing down with this book. And she was just like, so what did you do, love? And I said, well, I picked this lovely typeface. And I look at that. I was like, look at that white space. Look at that grid there. And ain't it great? And she just shut it, threw it on the floor, and she went, just a cup of tea, love. I was just like, no,
started looking at your thumbs.
And I'm just like, I was burned, I just thought, wow. And my first reaction as a young designer, sort of still with that kind of poison in me that I know better as a designer. I'm a designer. I know what design is, which is fucking again nonsense. But this is the point. I'm there thinking, well, what does my nana know? She never did this. She just worked in the NHS. She don't know good design when it drops in front of her like that. And I used to think all this stuff, and then I just thought, as the more I thought about it, I thought, actually, you know what? She's right.
Yeah.
What she cared about was the content. And she just cared what this book was about.
Because great design, you can't see it, can you?
Yeah, and she taught me that actually, if you've got fuck all to say, the best design in the world won't save you. So have something to say first and then use design as a tool. And it's design. She taught me essentially that design is a means and not an end. And if all you're doing is sort of just trying to make things look good or trying to have a style, for lack of a better term, that's not what design is to me. Design is problem solving. The design is a kind of a communication thing, and it's an intellectual discipline, and it happens in the head. And you think about things so much more than you actually spend moving them around on your software or whatever. You look to what the human impact is going to be, or how the human interaction with it, or even the human communication with it, and then you say, okay, if that's what we're trying to achieve, what's the best way to achieve that? Now, that might be a lovely book. That might be a fucking chest of drawers. It could be anything, but that's the intellectual discipline I think design is. And I think there's a little visual kind of ad break that happens. In the hour-long programme, there's a little ad break at the end where you do some visuals. And that's the graphic element of the design for me.
It's mainly about our brains.
And that comes from my nan, not some bold creative director in his 50s wearing a black T-shirt,
With a big beard.
Yeah. I used to, just the bold thing, that's not a dig.
Okay.
There used to be I'll give him a shout out, a designer, Jordan, and he worked with me when I worked at another agency. And he was, for years, he was curating this GIF every time he saw, like on a design awards page or in the press, a little profile picture, like they have those little thumbnails of this is so-and-so who's written this article or this, whatever. Whenever he saw a designer, a male designer, it was only males, but whenever he saw a male designer that had a shaved head, he used to steal the picture and he had a bold designer's GIF. And he just had this weird morphing of all these bold designers. He thought it was really hilarious, and as did I. But
well, that's good, having a bit of a sense of humour.
There's a tangent for you.
No, it's great. It's great to hear about your upbringing. It kind of explains a lot, and it kind of defines you, doesn't it?
It does.
That strong Yorkshire family background.
I think the thing that I'm most ashamed of, though, is that I had to sort of go through a really kind of awful process to see the value in that. And I think that's why the stories about my nan and granddad, as funny as they are, took me years to get my head around because, as I said, I felt kind of weird in Barnsley, this industrial town where all my mates were either, joining the police or the fire brigade, or they were going into heavy industry or whatever. They were pursuing interests, but they weren't necessarily creative interests, apart from the odd couple. One of them wanted to be an actor, or is an actor, which is great. But and I wanted to do this thing called graphic design, which no one could understand and I couldn't explain. So I felt a little sort of on the periphery.
Yeah.
So I thought uni was going to be the thing. I thought, right, I'll go to university and I'll do a degree in this and everybody's going to know what it is. And I'm going to be like amongst my people, So I went to Falmouth, and I got there, and everybody was even more different from me. Even though we're doing the same subject, they were all, like, as I said earlier, like they're from these cosmo cities like Bristol and London and Exeter, and and they've got all these references, and they're all into skating and surfing, and they've all got that kind of look, and they're all in Vans and baggy jeans, and they're all great at this, and I was there in my trackies, liking football, thinking, oh my, what's this? This is not what I thought. So I'm so ashamed. I looked at that and I thought, okay, I'm different. I need to be like that to be a good designer, because they're obviously great, and I looked up to them, my peers.
Yeah.
And I was getting told, oh, you need to go to London to have a great career by my tutors, and I'm being told this is what great design is, and these agencies do it really well. So I'm thinking, even though some of them, I was like, well, that's fucking horrible. I hate that. I used to think, well, it's me. I'm the problem. I have to be like that. So I have to look at those agencies and like their work. I have to do work like them. I have to dress like them and act like them and listen to their music. And I sort of thought for a long time, well, that's what I have to do. And then I got into the industry, and that was perpetuated again. This is what a designer is like. This is what designers are into. And again, I behaved it. I remember like phoning my mum up and just saying, Mum, can you put some more money in my bank so I can buy some black T-shirts and some Converse? She was like, what do you want them for? And it's like, because that's what we wear. That's what they're wearing, Mum.
You want to conform.
Yeah. And it just, I used to think, and all this stuff, and I was shedding it, trying to shed my kind of past and my upbringing and my culture, because it didn't fit this mould that was put in front of me.
Yeah.
And I'm ashamed to say that that's what I did. For years I just thought, well, I've got to do that because that's what I want to be. I wanted to be that so much. Mm. And then it started, as I got more confidence in the industry working, and as I started to say my concerns to people, or I'd start saying, well, I don't actually agree. I think that's wrong, or I like this idea more than that one. Why can't we do this? And the more that came through in myself, that's when I started thinking, well, maybe I don't have to be like that. Why can't I be? It doesn't make me any less of a designer. And there was one turning point where I remember we were in a studio at an agency, and somebody brought something up on, I don't know, Creative Review or something. Or it's one of the trendy, it was before Creative Boom, but it was one of the trendy ones, and they were like, oh, fucking look at that project there, oof. And then there's all this little gaggle of designers around going, oh, look at that, ooh, all clucking away. And
flapping their arms.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And they were all, and I thought it was dog shit, this project. I really did. And I sort of said, I think that's crap. I think
what did really they all bad. Do? Was there an
was
audible gasp?
This gasp, and their arms flew up on their foreheads, and they were like, "Oh, how dare you, blasphemer!" And I just sort of went, "Well, I think it's shit because of this, and this." And that was the real turning point for me, because I was much more interested in other stuff that I was finding, and at the same time, I'd found my mum and dad's record collection where they'd made their own sleeves for stuff where the original sleeves had fallen to pieces. So they'd been like stapling wallpaper together and and drawing this weird shit and putting them in carrier bags and all sorts of stuff. Oh. And I thought that was really great. Yeah. And then they're all looking at this really polished corporate identity, and I thought, it is what it is, but it's not for me. And that's where I started to diverge, and I just thought, actually, I've lost a lot of time trying to be like these people that I'm not.
Was this in London?
It was in London and in Manchester.
Yeah. Did you lose your accent and try and as well?
I've never lost the accent.
And when you had your turning point, did you just suddenly become Yorkshire
I've
again?
tried. Yeah.
No, it's a great accent.
Emmerdale on air, but
no, it's lovely.
No, I used to try, particularly in London, because I get it now, and people, it's the stupidest thing to whinge about, but I'm going to whinge anyway. There are far bigger problems in the world than me, worrying about this. But when people sort of repeat what I say as if they're in my accent, so you say, "Oh, where are you from?" "I'm from Barnsley." And they go, "Barnsley," and I want to smack their face in. It really drives me mad, because you think, "Oh, you're just being funny," but it's actually when the 100th person of the day has said it to you, it can upset you a little bit,
Well, I don't
do it to Scousers, and I don't do it to Geordies or Scottish.
Would
I don't start repeating their accent.
But yeah, that is annoying when people sort of take the mick.
Yeah.
They probably think they're trying to get on your level, but it is, especially when you're down south in London and people have got, quite neutral accents, and then they just sort of pick up on your accent, and they have to know where you're from, and then they have to imitate you.
When you're 20 or 21 and you're in London, a city that you've only ever visited once, to go to the Natural History Museum on a school trip, like I had, and people are gathering around you, laughing at you because you've got a funny accent and you bought a kind of like dandelion and burdock. That really hurts.
Sorry, I shouldn't be
No,
laughing.
you're laughing now, but at the time...
You
like
have got a big cheeky grin on your face, I must say.
Sorry. I know it sounds, like I say, it's the most
I don't want my listeners to think I'm just always laughing at my guests.
It's one of the most pathetic things to sort of talk about, but, it does get to you.
My mum had it when she was... when she went to university, she was from Durham, and she went to Coventry Polytechnic to become a teacher because she knew she wanted to be a teacher. And when she was down there, all the other kids were just, go on, Claire, say something. Because, it was like 1970 something. Sorry, Mum, you're still very young to me and everyone. You still look amazing. But yeah, it was like the early 70s or something. And they were it was almost like they were poking her with a stick. Say something, Claire. She'd go, wait, no, I'm not saying anything. I'm probably doing a Newcastle accent there. I'm going to really offend anybody from Durham. But yeah, it's a funny thing. It's nice, actually, since I've done this podcast, a few people have emailed and gone, it's so nice that there's a podcast for the design community that's so diverse and northern. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't really think about that. It's just a bit of an accident.
That's another box of frogs, isn't it? The northern thing. Outside London. I mean,
yeah,
they've had their time, if you ask me. The North will rise. Are
we going to rise? I love it. Are we going to have sticks?
Fucking rise.
I've got my Jon Snow coat there, Game of Thrones inspired. Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? I like how regal it looks hooked on the back of that chair.
Yeah,
it's almost like you could walk in any minute now and go, right, lads.
We just need to lay a sword across the chair and then we're all good, aren't we?
How did you feel about Game of Thrones when that came out?
I'm not into it. I'm not into Game of Thrones, no.
You're not into any of that fighting
My
fantasy
wife,
stuff?
Ellen watched it, and she it was one of those like working programmes that she'd have on as she was doing a little bit of this or that or pottering or whatever.
Yeah.
And she got really into it, and she loves Sean Bean.
Oh, yeah,
so
great.
the first series was, absolute heaven for her, but... Although, I'm saying that he could have died in the first episode like he does everywhere else.
He's expensive.
Yeah, so I've floated in and out with it. I've had a flirtatious kind of relationship with Game of Thrones.
But that's the thing I loved about it the most, all in the north, all the northern accents.
Yeah, true.
There'll be people in America listening to this podcast episode thinking, gosh, I wonder if Craig's also secretly, got a Jon Snow coat and a stash of swords on his wall.
They don't know what I'm sat here wearing, do they? I'm in drag.
Yeah, but talking about movies, you're pretty much into... I mean, your website, by the way, goes against everything. It hints at that kind of humour that you have, that upbringing, that creativity, and a love of the culture that, we've touched upon just before.
Yeah.
I was clicking on a few things and I got Arnie saying...
Just get to the choppers.
It's not a tumor.
Oh, yeah. Kindergarten
Get
cops
to the choppers,
on there,
a brilliant one. My favourite Arnie quote is when he goes, if it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah, there's loads.
It's just brilliant.
There's that brilliant YouTube, isn't there? The 140 Arnie quotes or whatever it is. Oh,
if I need to cheer myself up, I'll watch that, or I'll watch, what's the other one? Owen Wilson says, wow. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't, no. Someone sent me the Trump China one as well, which is quite funny.
I've not
Which is
seen
just him
that.
saying China about 1 million times,
China.
which is hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you said that actually, because a lot of people don't get the website. A lot of people think they just don't get it.
Oh, I love it.
And I actually think, for me, it was like really obvious. It was just like, well, it's not really obvious, but it's about personality. And it's like, I don't want to...
It's different.
Because my experience before sort of setting up on my own, and working with other agencies and seeing how other agencies do it was 90% or even more so when people used to come to work with us, they'd say, oh, we really like that project you did for so-and-so. Can we have something like that? Mm-hmm. And I used to hate that because it's already kind of, half of it's predefined already.
Exactly.
And it's a bit like, well, no.
Where's the creativity?
Yeah, and it goes back to that kind of what you're trying to achieve. How do we achieve it? Kind of, not philosophy, that's a grand word for it, but, that kind of principle.
Yeah.
And if they're already saying, oh, we want this, 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 and this, then where's the challenge in that? So I always push back on that, but that's why I don't show any work on there, because it's just like, I kind of want to step away from that. I realise now that, I did that 6 years ago, so that needs to be addressed. I do need to actually distribute work.
I love it.
But all that kind of personality and fun is still going to be retained.
If you ever change it, can you have, like, for fans of the old side, click here?
Don't worry, I'm in the midst of changing it at the moment, and I have vastly expanded the soundboard. Yeah. So there's got a lot more.
Were you old enough when, the days of the internet were just kicking off?
Oh, yeah, GeoCities. Oh,
GeoCities.
I love GeoCities.
Message boards.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
All those GIFs. Oh,
so good.
There's a great site, actually. I can't remember which one it is. It's on if you look on GeoCities on the Wikipedia page, there's 2 links in there, and it's just someone has archived all of the male GIFs and all of the under construction GIFs from GeoCities.
Wow.
Fantastic. There's a Google that
That's
now if you listen to it.
That's a really good tip.
Get
That
Googling.
is. I'm going to do that afterwards. I also clicked on one that was of Ren and Stimpy.
Yes.
I think it was Joy. It's interesting. I wonder what the most. Do you track the most?
Do you know what? I
clicked?
don't know if I can do that, actually. That's
should
probably a
do
question
that.
for someone else. I don't know what the most clicked one is.
Because I think I did click on Joy, and I probably clicked on. I think there might have been an assault one. Maybe, I don't know.
There's lots of them. I forget what they are.
And I got a
myself.
Forrest Gump as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of gump in there. There's a lot of gump in there.
So that comes from a love of movies. Have you got a favourite, or is that just for somebody that loves?
I can't do favourites.
No,
I really struggle with favourites. I mean, because
tough.
it's like a mood thing. It's like, I don't know if it's just me, but I assume everybody's similar. Where, much like music, if you listen to music when you're working, you say, "Oh, I'm in a mood for that today," and not that. And sometimes you want something grim on. Sometimes you want something really happy. Sometimes you want something that's ambient. It's sort of tapas of through movies is how I feel. So some days it's one film, some days it's another.
Yeah.
I kind of graze through them, and I constantly change my mind. Yeah.
You kind of revisit things a lot as well, don't you? You have to leave it. Sometimes I feel like I have to leave a movie, like that I might have seen 20 times for maybe a year, and then there'll just be this growing bubble in my stomach, and I'll be like, "Oh, I really want to put Lost in Translation back on." Or
yeah, I mean, I have a kind of weird kind of parallel with it. I get, obviously, because I do a lot of work within films now. Well, not work, but I have an interest, and I'm trying to sort of push that interest into things that people seem to want to share, like books and sort of things like that.
You've got a few side things going on.
I'm doing
you?
that, and that's really film sort of focused. So if I'm researching a certain film, you'll find out that all film is self-referential. It's this lovely kind of universe where they all nod to each other, and it's so rich, and I love that side of it. So I might be researching a particular film, and I'll start watching all those other films that are associated to it or have come before it, and so on. So I fall down that rabbit hole a lot. But also I get really obsessed with certain films. Like I remember last year, the Lynn Ramsey film, You Were Never Really Here, with Joaquin Phoenix in it. I got obsessed with that, and I watched it about 5 times in a weekend.
Good grief.
And I can do that where I study them, and I can't stop watching them, and I see little things every time I watch it, and the things like that really kind of get under my skin.
That
and I
other
get really
people might not
obsessed with
even,
it.
yeah,
I don't know if
notice.
I'm sure other people do, but for me, I just can't. I have this weird itch I have to scratch. I have to watch it again. Well, was that idea right? Should I go back and watch it?
Yeah.
But that film for me was particularly
Well, they're
present.
so creative, and there's so many different creative things coming together to make this epic thing.
Yeah.
It's a joy. I know people who say to me that they don't like movies, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? I mean, sorry if you don't like movies out there, but for me, they're just...
Oh, yeah.
They're just a joy. They're one of my reasons to live, to be able to go to the cinema and be taken away into this other, often galaxy or other world.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I always have. Films have always been a massive part of my life, like growing up and stuff. I used to love watching them. I was never one of those kids that, you put a film on, you get the first 10 minutes and then run off and play with your toys or whatever. I was always, mouth on the floor, eyes on the screen, mouth agape, watching whatever it was. And I was lucky or unlucky to have an older brother and sister who would allow me, when they were babysitting, to let me watch stuff that I probably shouldn't be watching. Or my mum would beat the hair off them for, letting me watch.
What, like Top Gun, maybe?
The one that stuck with me the most, because it frightened the life out of me, was they made me watch the serialisation of Stephen King's It, when the Tim Curry one.
Oh my goodness, how old were you?
Oh, I must have been about, I think it was like 95 or something, 93 when it came out. So I would have watched it later when it was on telly. So I'd have been about 10, if that. terrified the life out of me.
I've never watched it because for that very reason. I can't do clowns.
I always thought it was a film, but it's I look now, and obviously you look on IMDb or whatever, and it's a TV series, and it's like 6 hours long.
Good grief.
And I remember watching that in one sitting, so Lord knows what I was doing my days. And how we got through that in one sitting. But yeah, it was things like that. And then they'd also spring all these other weird little films that they'd got that were, again, probably they would have missed me because I wasn't that generation. You know, they grew up in the 80s because they were 5 and 7 when I was born. So they had that kind of world. And they sort of gave me a little bit of that as I grew up in my own sort of world.
Yeah.
So again, I had this kind of parallel where we'd be watching all these weird films from the 80s that no one in my age remembers or they've watched as an adult now, so they know it. But I used to get all that as well. And, you know, you mentioned The Labyrinth earlier, didn't you? Things like that.
Oh, I love
that I used
The
to grow up
Labyrinth.
with. You know, you're just
It was
amazing.
magical.
Yeah.
But I think there was a golden, and maybe it's just nostalgia, but for me, I feel like there was a golden moment for movies before massive big effects came along. When you had things like The Goonies and Labyrinth and what else was it? The Explorers. Do you remember The Explorers? Flight of the Navigator, maybe
Flight
on
the
the Fringe.
Navigator, definitely remember that.
That was
I used to love that.
fantastic. I used to love that. I watched that the
Dark
other day.
Crystal, all of those.
The Dark Crystal. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
one
I
of
mean,
my
again,
favourites.
they're like little pockets of time, aren't they? You know, the kind of Jim Henson, Steven Spielberg,
Yeah.
George Lucas kind of.
Magical. Star Wars.
Bringing a bit of what they were doing in their kind of adult careers into the kind of children, family kind of breed. And they were mixing stuff like Gremlins as well, you know, where Steven Spielberg's bringing that in. Obviously, Joe Dante directed that, I think, but clashing those two worlds of horror and the Spielbergian family fucking thing, which we'll not go on to that. But
Oh, you're not a fan?
I'm not a fan of Spielberg, no, and I get lynched for it by saying it, but I'm not.
Right,
I'm
going.
Yeah, I think he peaked with Jaws. I thought Jewel was
Jaws
amazing.
is an amazing film.
And then I thought Jaws was an amazing film. But I thought after that, he just got a bit too friendly for me. Like E.T. and all that, I just can't fucking stand it. But I'm a miserable git.
E.T. is a bit mental, actually, if you think about it.
I
It
mean,
always makes me cry, though. Even if I watch it now, I always cry my eyes out at the end. I'm a softie.
Yeah, I mean, I admit to watching it as a kid and I did love it. But there's just, I don't know, there's a kind of, I don't know, I think whereas other directors could have made it really edgy, he always softens off the tips.
Yeah, it does have soft focus,
and
definitely.
That's the thing I can't quite respect him for.
Yeah.
Every now and again I want something to, ooh, yeah, sword, you know, I want something to poke me,
Yeah.
and jab me and really
Just to
upset
surprise
me.
you.
And I want something to challenge me. Whereas E.T.'s, I'm really having a go at E.T. here, but a lot of Spielberg's kind of films for
Poor
me
E.T..
always just kind of, they just give you a nice little pat on the back when you finish with you. You'll be okay, you know.
It's a bit twee.
Sometimes I don't want to feel okay. I want to feel scared and I want to feel hopeless, or I want to feel an emotional wreck in one way or another.
Trying to think what children's movies, because we did have that as well. We had quite a few kind of movies that did that had that unusual twist, and you were left feeling as a kid, hang on a minute, where's the pat on the back? But then they were the ones that stood with you and stayed with you and really made you think and really changed your perspective on the world. And that's kind of like a gift in itself, isn't it? I'm trying to think what kind of, you know, on the spot, I can't think of anything, but there were many movies from that time.
I mean, that's another thing I love about films, you know, I love that they have these purposes, and whether they're intentional or not, they can help you through things, and they become filters through which you can sort of understand the world, particularly as a kid. You know, if you know, watching The Lion King or Bambi, and you start to think about your parents in a different way because they lose their parents in that, and it sends them on this whole kind of arc and stuff. And yeah, there's all that Shakespearean shit in there as well, but they're you know, on the most basic examples, but they're ideas that you can engage with as a child that then lead you on to the more bigger human ideas of understanding things around you and not being so self-centered that you are as a kid until you sort of grow out of it.
Yeah.
And I think film can do that for children. It can also do so many other things as well, of course. But it never stops. As you grow, you still find those things, those subversive ideas in films that, as I say, provoke you and challenge you and confront you and give you a sort of a little 90-minute break in which you can maybe think about something a little bit differently, or challenge yourself on what your preconceived ideas were, or what you brought to that film might not be what you take away from it.
Yeah.
Or equally, you might come away with something completely different after this 90-minute cinematic experience. That, for me, is such a unique thing that happens in films.
When was the last time you felt that?
Probably that you were never really here.
Oh, right,
I don't know,
okay.
actually, because when I went to watch Ghost Story in the cinema with Ellen, the one with Casey Affleck in it, where he's in that sheet. Have you seen it?
No.
I think it's on Netflix now, actually, but I remember going to see that in the cinema and coming away feeling really moved by it.
Yeah.
And it's one of the weirdest things, but it's actually a good example to talk about, actually, because the whole premise of it is a really kind of haunting, moving story.
Yeah.
But he's in a bedsheet for the entire film as a ghost, and you think, what a ridiculous idea. But if you allow yourself to sort of let that wash over you, or actually confront the idea of that's just a visual to denote something, move away with it. It's a visual language that we can all engage with, get past it, then engage with what the story's trying to tell you. It's really, really engaging and really powerful. I remember coming out of that one just sort of wandering with my head up, just thinking, what was that about? And wow, that was really interesting, and I love that. And you just start thinking about it, and little details would come to you as you remembered them. And yeah, that was a really kind of moving experience for me. But it's not just new films either. It's I could be watching a DVD or something that comes on Film 4 or something that you've never seen, and you think, whoa. I rewatched The Exorcist recently, which I've been hammering quite a lot.
What do you think of it?
I love The Exorcist, yeah.
It's really dark. I mean...
It struggles now because it's had so many different cuts. A bit like the Blade Runner and The Shining, they've had so many different director's cut and the version you've never seen. And there's all these kinds of weird versions of the film, so you never really know which one to trust, or do you know, is the original the only one that you should ever go back to? Is that the sort of, that's
an interesting question,
totem?
actually. Yeah,
because if you watch Blade Runner, it can be about different things depending on which cut you watch.
Yeah.
Because in the final cut, which is the most recent one, it's almost like that's what Ridley Scott wants you to think. And it doesn't leave any ambiguity about whether it's a fucking android or whatever. It doesn't leave any of that up for debate. It's kind of all there for you to take, whereas the original is much more ambiguous, and there's so many more gaps for you to sort of plug in what you want and not make the film what you want it to be about, but a little bit of that. And I find those stories much more interesting, where you are almost a participant in what the film means. Or it's not necessarily, people, I think, when they're watching films, they get so fixed on what's this film about.
Yeah.
They don't have to be about anything. They can just be a story. Yeah, and you can take from that what you want.
When the ending happens and people are like afterwards, what do you think happened? What do you think he said to her? What do you think will happen next? I'm like, well, that's up to you to decide. That's the whole point.
It's like the internet's they call it immersive criticism. And The Shining has been a big example of this, where because films aren't as exclusive as they once were, you don't have to, you can see them more than just at the cinema now.
Yeah.
And the VHS helped, and then DVDs and Blu-rays helped, and now we can stream it, pause it for days and come back to it and whatever else.
It took me a while to get my head around that, by the way.
What?
Just streaming.
Yeah.
Because it took me a while to go from putting DVDs into my PS4 and then just downloading
DVDs.
them.
I'm a weirdo. I still like
to
own
I don't think that's
something.
Weird. I don't... You like to hold it in your
I
hands.
still like to sort of have that physicality.
That. Yeah, but I was born in 78, so I grew up with tape cassettes and a Walkman.
Oh, I miss tapes.
You're the same age as my little brother, so I'm 7 years older than my little brother. So I'm very much aware of the world you grew up in. But for me, it was like, I really have seen, the communications world completely transform. So I'm still getting my head. And like, even with computer games, I'll buy them and then I'll get home and Tom would be like, you do know you can just download that. I was like, yeah, but I don't trust it.
No, but I think we were at the kind of, I'm smashing us all into one group here, but we had to go through the internet being absolutely crap.
Yeah, we did.
We had to go through dial-up.
Oh,
we
God,
had to go through, running a wire through the house to the only socket, down the stairs and everything. We had to go through that just to load up a one web page.
We used to.
Never mind this idea that it's all in the cloud,
Well, exactly.
Which like you, don't trust.
Well, I was 7 when you were born, so my dad had a ZX Spectrum, and if we wanted to play a computer game, we had to like set the game to load, and then I'd go down for my tea. Sorry, Mum, dinner. And Mum's got this thing. She says, "You ever say dinner?"
I know exactly what you mean.
Is it a similar thing?
I'm a dinner.
Yeah, dinner. Sorry, Mum. Go downstairs for my dinner, and then I'd go back upstairs, and then the computer game would be loaded. And that is kind of what I grew up with. So for me now, playing a cowboy on a computer game in a world where I can go around wherever I want. If I want, I can sort of just pet my horse, take it to the stables, get it a really nice plaits in its hair, and then maybe go and just sit and have a drink at a bar, and maybe just stroll around, maybe like go and do some hunting. It's just bizarre, but wonderful and glorious. And they're turning into movies now as well. You get to play the main character. You get to go into this virtual world and be the movie star. It's amazing.
I think that's been quite an interesting transition between games design and games marketing and films, is that films have become more gamified and games have become more cinematic.
Isn't the games industry worth more than the film industry?
Worth more than, I think, a lot of industries combined. But yeah, I mean, if you look at any kind of TV ad now for Halo or whatever the game is, Call of Duty 46 or however many they're on, they're just trailers. They're trailers for films. Yeah. And it's all, you've always got that little thing in the bottom corner saying not actual gameplay. And I love that. But the games are advertised like films now. Yeah. And equally,
it's amazing.
You get, again, a Spielbergian sort of Ready Player One kind of thing where films are trying to tap into that whole, and all the Avengers stuff and all that is all part of that gamification of cinema now.
That was a good book, by the way.
The Ready Player One. I've not read it.
It's a good book, movie.
Yeah, I'm not keen on the film.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. You have just released a book called They Live, A Visual and Cultural Awakening. Mm-hmm. And now this is a book based on John Carpenter's A Classic Film, which I have not seen. I'm very sorry.
We're going to have to remedy that.
I'm going to buy it tonight, actually. I'm going to download it with trepidation. I'm going to download it and make sure that it's downloading. And I'll ask my husband, Tom, who's technically, is a technical genius. I mean, he'll roll his eyes listening to this because he'll be like, for goodness sake, it doesn't take a genius to just download a movie. But I'll be like, am I doing it right? Am I pressing the right button now? Is it on Apple TV or is it on this other thing? Or do I download it from the PlayStation? And he'll just be going, oh my God. Anyway, so I watched the trailer and I got a gist of what it is. And I started to realise, oh yeah, okay, I get this. This is like something you could really delve into head first and get very nerdy very quickly about the typography,
Absolutely.
the one-liners. I mean, even the mullet of the lead character.
Which is what you've just described is exactly what I did, yeah. To be honest. I mean, for me, it's the perfect... It's not the perfect film in the sense of it's a perfect crafted film, but it operates on every level that I think a film should, in that you can watch it for 90 minutes and it can be an absolute bullshit B-movie piece of trash where you can just sort of put it on, almost just let it wash through you.
It's like a Sunday afternoon film,
you get
isn't
all
it?
your kind of 80s sugar from it, and then you just turn it off refreshed and walk away. Or you can delve a bit more deeper and see it for what maybe it's trying to be and what it is, and the kind of subversiveness of it being a social commentary, and it's very political and it's very very challenging in a lot of what the 80s was. It was released in 1989, just as the Americans had got rid of Reagan and brought in George Bush Sr., who was his vice president. And it's a real reflection on society in that time of Reaganism and neoliberalism, Thatcherism.
Marry and reproduce.
Yeah. For those that haven't seen it, I guess it's just,
There'll be somebody listening to this somewhere in the UK going, oh, I need to go and buy something. Oh, I need to get married.
If you haven't seen it, it's this weird kind of... the idea of it is it's an alien invasion movie, basically. Yeah. And these aliens that are amongst us that look like us in a kind of, invasion of the body snatchers kind of thing. Yeah. They are mind controlling us, and all advertising and all kind of consumer media, from packaging and what you buy in the supermarkets to, advertising and TV programming, is brainwashing. And it's all in beautiful colour. And then the rebels have made these sunglasses that allow you to see the truth. And when you put them on, everything's in black and white. And all that media just is plain type that just says obey, buy, consume, marry and reproduce, honour apathy, all this kind of stuff.
Don't think. all these kind of dangerous, scary messages, which actually it's a very good interpretation of the world today, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that's again, talking about it like the Blade Runner analogy. It's almost a vessel in that you can. I mean, and this is a gift and a curse in it of the film, but you can pour into that what you think it's about. You know, the goodies could be this and the baddies could be that. And you can, they're interchangeable, you know, you can make them who you want.
Yeah.
And say, oh, it's about this, or oh, it's about that. And that's, as I say, it's a gift and a curse, because it could be a really kind of positive thing. Or people, which has happened, like the far right have taken it and say it's about sort of a, you know, a Zionist conspiracy and all this fucking nonsense.
Oh, dear.
But, which the director came out and said, yeah, that's absolute bollocks. So good on John for that.
Yeah.
But it's got all these levels, and that was why I really loved it. But it's the part of a series, the book. So it's the first of a series that we're calling the Epiphany editions, which are going to be published by Rough Trade.
Great.
And it's essentially, and this is a nosebleed inducer, but it's creating books that don't exist. So these books are props in films, but they're not real books.
Right.
But someone will go, a character in the film, and they'll pick up this book. And it's usually a catalyst within the story that everything kicks off from that point, or it changes the story, or it impacts that character, or it's pivotal in the kind of wider scheme. And we are reproducing those for real.
Wow.
And then filling those books with critique about the culture in which the film was made, and then the culture that the film had afterwards. And They Live is the first one. Like I said, nosebleed.
I can tell this is a real kind of,
Yeah,
geeky.
and it is. It really is. I mean,
Love
it is really geeky, but it's also kind of...
It's great.
Quite.
Geeky's got it's got a negative connotation, and I don't think I see it as the opposite, because I was always a geek, and I always think, you know, what does geek mean anyway? That you're into culture, and that you're into, you know, bohemian things, maybe, I don't know, that you like to study.
The thing I like to see it as is I see it as like a circle. It's like a cycle, and how you enter this circle, there are sort of 2 points. You either know the film, and then you come into that, and then you join that kind of that churn of the circle, and you go out learning about something you had no idea that the film was associated with, or inspired, or was inspired by, and it takes you off into another realm. That could be, you know, fashion, or conceptual art, or propaganda, or philosophy, or whatever. You could get into something just through having a love of this little film.
Yeah.
Or you could be interested in one of those other things I've just mentioned, and then stumble across this film and watch it and be like, wow. So it's like a sort of an endless cycle that I really love. And my job is to just put triggers on those circles. So relate how this film, this prop that looks like something you could own from that kind of universe, is related to Shepard Fairey, is related to Slavoj Zizek, or how John Grant loves the music in it, or how, you know, 1,000 street artists have had their careers launched from this, and, you know, brand hacking and all these kind of rich sort of things, these countercultural things that have happened before that the film drew on, and have then gone out and have had impact since. And I think there's so many little layers in that. And for me, it was getting those people that I've just mentioned. So we interviewed Shepard Fairey, and he loves the film. He absolutely adores the film. And he was like, yes, we spoke to him, and he wrote a piece for it, and we showed how his work relates to it all. The fact that he took Obey from that and pulled it into his work as a command. Even down to like Slavoj Zizek, who's talked about it in his films, but also thinks it's a really great, like, Hollywood left kind of film. And down to film critics who talk about where it comes from literature, and the fact that it's based on a short story, and all the other short stories that are around at the time. That, because it's really 50s, despite being an 80s film, it's actually really 1950s. It's really kind of paranoid, kind of US culture, and it's about drawing all those things. And I then sort of sewed these kind of individual pieces from these cultural luminaries together with the bigger ideas that I think are in the film, such as hypermasculinity, in the way that I think that the character in there, the female character played by Meg Foster, how I feel she challenges all the male stereotypes that were around in the 80s. I talk about, obviously, mass media and how that's sort of affected, because this is pre-internet, and telly was the bad guy, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the visual culture of these aliens, and how conceptual art, predominantly all women. So, you know, Barbara Kruger, you know, the Guerrilla Girls, all of their work feeds into what those commands look like on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of that, and I fucking forgot what the other one is, but, you know, the politics, the politics. So how it is a reflection on how a mass neoliberal individualist society treats its most vulnerable, and how the fact that the guy who saves the day isn't this guy from the army or from privilege or from anything like that. He's a working poor man who wanders into this city because he can't go anywhere else to get a job.
Yeah.
So it's all of that in this big melee for me.
Now that is a book you could have shown your nan.
Yeah. And I could have told her, yes, I did write it, Nan. Yes, I did get those pictures. Yes, I did fucking draw that. And yes, I did set that lovely typeface.
You talk about horror movies a lot. I think, am I getting a hint that that's one of your favourite genres? And
I like horror and sci-fi, yeah. And but the reason I like horror, well, there's lots of reasons why I like horror, but I find it one of the more creative mediums for film. It's always looked down on. You know, it's by, you know, you're kind of the, what would you call it, the authority, I guess, the Oscars and all that. Then you never, very, very rarely do you see horror winning anything, or even getting a nomination. I mean, that's
Did
been
Aliens
booking.
get anything?
No, I don't think, it probably got some in the technical, or the craft categories.
Yeah, it should have got
The
something.
Exorcist was nominated for Best Picture,
Right.
I think, and a couple of others like Best Director, but I don't think it won any of them.
Right.
What was it?
I mean, she
Get
was
Out was one more recently that was in the mix, but they're very few and far between. And I think what the good side to that is that it's always been a peripheral kind of genre, so it's much more creative and there's much more stuff that goes on. Yeah, where they're always pushing boundaries,
exactly,
and they're always challenging and they're always reinventing things. It's also like a really accessible genre because there's more new directors having their first film as horror than they would do doing a drama, for example.
Yeah.
And some of the ones that we now probably know as household all made, like Spielberg made a horror film first. You know, it was Duel, which is ripped off by Jeepers Creepers with that van scene chasing him. That's all based on Duel. And Jaws, of course. So I love that. It's like a starter for filmmakers. And I also love how it completely changes so many kind of dynamics. I love how amazing women are and how 9 times out of 10 women are the strongest characters in those films. And I think that again really books a lot of trends that you see everywhere else.
I never, being a woman myself, I mean, growing up with movies and seeing, given what the world was like and how it's changed during my lifetime, you're right. I mean, Weaver in Aliens. I mean, what a character!
There's so many. I mean,
and as a young girl, I was like looking at her, thinking I wasn't thinking she was a woman. Well, maybe I was. I mean, I was very young.
But that again, that's an issue, isn't it? It's sort of.
I just thought she was
I don't think
great.
I was aware of it as a kid.
You weren't.
I was just rooting for her.
Yeah, me
just
too.
like, yeah, go on.
She was great.
And it didn't matter if it was a man or a woman. It was just that's my hero that I'm identifying with. And for me, I didn't ever think twice about it being a woman at all. But I used to, I love Sigourney Weaver and I love her in that film. And there's loads of them that like Jamie Lee Curtis I love in Halloween, and she's like an absolute idol because she's just like perceived as this sort of goofy, nerdy, goody two-shoes at school, and she fucking kicks his ass,
Well,
and
they've just got many layers, haven't they? Yeah. They're not characters that are one-dimensional that might often be the case in other genres.
Yeah.
They're not just a pretty face.
Exactly, and I don't know if it's like, not to get too deep on it, but I don't know if it's like me seeing people like my mum in those characters, because I used to remember my mum, she'd work these horrific long shifts at work, and then she'd come home and like wallpaper the house, at midnight, and that's because that's the only time she could do this stuff. And I used to really like appreciate like her work ethic and her strength and her kind of stoicism in all this kind of shit she had to deal with. And she never took it out on me, she never shouted at me, or she was always encouraging, she always had time for me. And I see that maybe up on screen in people like Sigourney Weaver kicking, just being sensible. Lock the fucker in quarantine. Why let the alien out? And the men are too busy like, we'll get a Nobel Prize for this. Something like that.
Yeah.
But also her strength and also her intelligence and her wit and her sensitivity and her femininity, those things coming through. And me just loving it and just thinking, fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And that is so much more, rightly or wrongly, a thing in horror and in science fiction. I don't know why, but that's just another thing that I find it. I just think it's quite interesting. I think it's better to see different people doing different things. Why has it always got to be the white man saving the day?
Yeah.
Or
God.
the rich man,
Amen.
or the army man, or whatever the fuck man. It's just, I'm tired of that. You see it all the time, so let's see something different.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I never knew that we'd end up talking about movies so much. It's
Rattling
great.
away there.
I clearly got you on a subject you adore, which is great because, obviously I enjoy it too. And if you want to go and have a play on, sounds a bit dodgy, Craig's soundboard,
yes.
It's on his website, and I'll provide links after this episode. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Creative Boom podcast with your host, Katie Cowan. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. Go to creativeboom.com/podcast to find out more, and say hello on Twitter @CreativeBoom, or you can follow me at Katie L. Cowan.